So the first thing to say is that intro video is from spring 2021.
Huh?
I should update that, or somebody should, and at this stage it probably should be me, just letting people know at some point this is where we're at,
Mhm.
because that's obviously way, way, way out of date. It's not wrong, it's just not up to date. Talks about the ambition to produce a community of practice and use forums and so on, all of which is still true, but in the past tense and future tense rather than the present tense. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, uh, but I can't update it yet because I'm not clear enough yet what we will be in a position to say. Because now that's a video that I'd made for myself, put onto a page on YouTube. Anybody could have access, or anybody could produce their own pages and embed it into the site. So if at the moment, if you go over to the home page,
Mhm.
click on, and now you'll see there's a page called Start Here.
Uh-huh.
Did you click on Start Here? You did. Okay.
That's it now.
What I will be saying in the new menu is, if you're new, we are experimenting with a kind of entry route for people who are new. These are the things that we think people are new are going to be most interested in. Introducing the PI approach, navigating around the site, some general advice about developing as PIs. There's the PIs 2 framework,
Yeah.
and there are icon linked images now to all the descriptions in there. So we'll say, if you're interested in psychological awareness, but before we get there, notice that above that, current hot topics. So anything where there's a forum discussion, for example, and there's going to be several of them, that's where we can put immediately interactive stuff that can go straight to it.
Yeah.
Sure, we can send them something on the mailing list, but that's where on the page. Now, at the moment, there's only two things in there: PIEs and trauma-informed care, and PIEs and housing first. The third one actually is about how PIEs, housing first, and trauma-informed care work together. And that's a mistake, which we've kept in temporarily because Cara from Focus Island, who I'm sure you've met now, she'd included that link in a message that went out to answer people. So until we've had that webinar,
Ah, you need to leave it like that.
exactly. But this is a lovely example of the flexibility that the website gives us.
Yeah.
Now, I was starting to think, bearing in mind Dan's advice like that, I was starting to think perhaps we need a Start Here page with then how to introduce it. We also maybe need a page for people who are further into it than that. So that's the one called Digging Deeper.
Mhm.
So those of you who are well familiar can just go straight to the part of the page, part of the menu that you're interested in, or you can go to the forums page, or you can go to the page where we're discussing issues about development in the future. So depending on what your level of interest is in being involved in a broader discussion, or whether you just want to go to something on housing first, then it makes, now that design I'm trying to do in such a way that if you later lay on a new page using a much sexier, more contemporary design, all those links will be the links that you would want,
Yeah.
including a link to the Start Here page. But so that those who are, your new site says, are you entirely new to the PIElink? In this case, go here.
Yeah.
Are you particularly interested in housing first? Yeah, and you can modulate that according to what's current, and we can use this page to make sure that everybody else can get to those issues.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
I'm trying to build a sort of future proofing.
No, that looks really good.
If we go back up to home again, because we went straight to home page, notice below that there's some general advice, which is exactly the same as the right-hand column on essential background. It also says some general advice.
Yeah.
Though that's the same link in twice.
Okay.
First on the general introduction on the main menus, and the second on the start page. So again, building that in so it can work from two different angles, so it can work from a third angle if you have a new interface.
Yeah.
So there you go. Some of the content, by the way, is quite out of date and really needs updating, but some of that I'll get around to and some of it I won't.
No, there's just so much, isn't there, Robin, about
There
it?
is just so much, that's right. So if you go to home again,
Mm.
you've also got a link straight to the library, just to tell people library.
Yep.
And there's a link to the navigating page, which again, they would come to anyway. But that allows me to pick out, give slightly more emphasis.
Right. Is this a new page?
This is a new page.
Yeah.
And you see, I'm starting to use certain icons introduced quite early on. If you go now to PIEs to the basics and look at any one of those, let's have a look at psychological awareness.
Do you want me to click on that one?
Go to the main tab for psychological awareness, and there's your.
This one here?
If you now go to psychological awareness in action, it's a slightly more discursive comment about what we mean, but it's still got the same icon.
Yeah.
And if you now go to empathy and emotional intelligence, which you can get to on that page, or you can get to through
yeah.
click on that.
Same
Same
icon.
icon. So I'm using the equivalent of color coding,
Yeah.
only it's content based, it's icon based. How much of that I can manage to get done at a time, how useful it is, whether at some point it gets silly. And at some point, some issues are an example of more than one issue.
Mm.
So which icon do you use? Do you fill it full of icons? Or do you have, so there are design dilemmas further down the line
Yeah.
built into it. But I think for your beginner's guide bit, for your start here pages, and that's the issue I wanted to talk over with you.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point at which it's exciting, but maybe problematic. So I just want to make sure that what I'm thinking is the right thing to do. Having started doing this, I then started realizing that people like Jay Levy in the States who said, you want to produce a sort of an introduction guide for the United States, because we don't know a lot of this stuff. And some of it's written more with a sort of English context and English history and social policy structures and so on in mind. But a lot, could you, why not try and at some point write a beginner's guide to pies for the United States? Starting on this, I realized that that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually a beginner's guide in webinar, in web page structure.
In format, yeah.
I could actually take off big chunks of that, put them in book form.
Mm-hmm.
If I did, then it would make sense if the book echoed, but also complemented and built on, developed what's on the site. So if I'm going to do it for a US audience, it makes sense to do it for an English or a UK audience, maybe a different one for Australia and Canada, where they are like half UK kind of social policy, British Empire structures, and half Anglo-American, we do it this way. We don't care what the rest of the world does kind of approach.
Yeah.
So a lot of the structure I'm putting together here, I'm doing in tandem with writing not one, not two, but actually 3 books.
I thought you were meant to be winding down, Robin.
This is in order to wind down. Those ski slopes where in order to get there, you're just going to go. This is me coming to the end of the ski slope. The thing is, I found myself with more time than I expected.
Yeah.
With more energy, and I do worry I'm a bit manic, which is why I need to tell other people about what I'm doing in case I've gone completely out of order. So what I suggest we do at this stage, if you stop sharing your screen.
Yep.
Because I think it's possible for 2 people to share their screen. I'm also aware it's quarter to 2, so I'm going to be very brief here. Just
no worries.
because I can send you copies of this afterwards.
Mhm.
If I now share my screen, because I set this up, one participant can share at a time, and that's, is that me? Is that
That's just,
now? Are you sharing? Ah, click on share screen. Okay. So on my screen, you can see my desktop
I can't
with a
see
few other things.
anything yet.
Let's click on desktop, and this way you get to see the chaos in which I actually live. So
No, Robin, that stresses me out.
is I did think, would this be kind to do? And I thought, no. You need to see just what a complete mess my desk is. So you never need feel, oh look. So there's Roger's Gmail. Here you've got two, what appear to be two documents. In fact, they're not. They are just one document with two views of the same document.
Right. And is this your book?
Yep, a beginner's guide to pies. Psychologically informed environments from the ground up. So I'm trying to stress that this is not some highfalutin thing that, that people up in the gods came up with. This all came out of dialogue and discussion
Yeah.
on the ground as to what they're doing and how to describe that best, and so on. So here then is your page structure. There's a preface, which is quite chatty, an introduction. What exactly is a pie? Is it mainly about homelessness? How did it develop? What's the PIElink? And then you've got navigating the PIElink. It echoes immediately that same page on the PIElink. Start here. I hope you can see that. Can you see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that again, people will read the book and they'll go, oh, there's a page that says start here.
And they'll know where to go. Yeah.
Okay. Then some general advice, exactly the same structure. There's a page called, a whole chapter called What's the Big Idea, which is a new page on the website, but not so prominent. It's in the bit you'll come to later. Or you can link to it straight away from the start here and navigating pages when you know what to do. Then it describes pies too. Oh, sorry, the under What's the Big Idea, there's some case studies that again link to the case studies. They're just the titles. To actually see, to watch, or to read that case study, you have to go to the PIElink. And so there's vast amounts more on the PIElink than there is in the guide. So
Yeah.
the guide is like a hitchhiker's guide to the PIElink. It's almost like a tourist guide to an old medieval city, which is full of all kinds of backgrounds and byways and junk shops and that you can rummage around into your heart's content. But if you try to do that in book form, it would just be like 400 pages long and still incoherent. Whereas, so the structure here, on the one hand, is designed to give an intro, entry route for beginners, but also for those who want to get a bit further. Because I think a lot of pie leads, for example, need to know a bit more about it. So what we have then, introduction, which is really intended for beginners, a bit inspirational, uplifting, chatty. Stressing how important it is for people to get involved at their own time in their own way and not be kind of dragooned into being forced to do a pizzazz or whatever, what the hell is it? Then an introduction to pies described as a flexible specification. And that each of those pages links immediately to pages on the website. So I can have a brief mention here. They can look up more on the website.
I really like this. I really like this.
I'm really happy with it. It took me a long time to get it right. Then the digging a little deeper, note a little deeper. There's the digging deeper still, right, on the website, but we don't mention that here because we don't want to scare them off. Digging a little deeper basically says, okay, that's the beginner's guide, but if you're a pie lead, people may well want to know a bit more than that, and you want to be able to answer those questions. So even a beginner's guide has to have the next other questions that beginners will always ask. In fact, they are the ones who are most likely to ask the awkward questions. So, great, that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
these are some of the things that we know people ask about. So the idea about having a single framework, the history, where did it come from? What's the role of psychology? What is an environment? Anyway, what do you mean by an environment? Can a service be a little bit pie? Well, if we had a forum, several forums on that, so top to toe embedding and so on. The relationship with trauma-informed care, housing first, strengths model, appreciative inquiry, you know, all there'd be far too much to try and put that in a book.
Yeah.
Book just says, when you go to the website, this is where you can find out more.
Like signposting you and telling you where to go.
Exactly. Then a bit on the pizzazz and the pie advocates, basically saying, look, this is for people who are a bit further down the line, but you might find as I've asked to do this, and anyway, a pie lead may well want to know about this. So that's my opportunity to plug the pie advocates a bit as well. And then finally, what I call the conclusion, which is some of the things we have yet to do, where are we going in the future, and so on and so on and so on. So the book design structure, I want it to work as a book, but it also gives me clues as to what I need to do differently with the website itself.
Yeah.
So I'll cheerfully send you a copy of that.
That'd be fantastic.
You can have a look at it. I'm going to do, as soon as it's kind of like, I've got a few more bits of sort of twiddling to do, and I'm going to send that out to at least half a dozen, probably a dozen members of the advisory group, because quite a few people have said, oh yes, we'd love to have a look at it, we'll give you some feedback. And there's a version of this which is for the American audience, which explains some things more, but otherwise has the same structure, except some of the things it links to are things that you wouldn't want a UK audience to link. So there's a whole section called American Pie.
Good pun.
Thank you. Well, I didn't take long to work on
Did you
that.
come up with that one, Robin?
Yeah. It is now 10 minutes to 2, and I want to give you plenty of time to just have a bit of downtime before we go. Any immediate questions?
Not for just now, Robin, but I'm sure I'll think of some and I'll give you.
I'll bet you will. I sure hope you will. And obviously do ask. Like I'm saying to everybody, my best before date is the 15th of December, but up until then, I've got a couple of hospital appointments in that week as well. So I'm starting to sort of, like the Cheshire Cat, to fade out, leaving the grin behind. So we'll talk about that. But we can talk in between now and then. And if you have anything else specifically on the technical side, don't wait for the next time we all get together about your
just pop me an email.
Let's do any of that. And I'll send you a copy of this entire damn discussion.
Thank you very much. That'll be really helpful.
I'll put it on a YouTube page and you can download it from there, and then we can wipe it so it's not visible to anybody else. Okay, my darling.
Thank you very much. You take care.
Yeah, and you. And I'll see you, if we don't speak before Friday of next, I'll see you then.
See you then, yeah, if not speak before. Bye.
How do I undo this damn thing?
See you later.
And stop share. That sounds like we got through there. That's really a lot we got through there. I'm really, really very, very happy with that. Hope you are. And there will be more. I hope.